Ian Hartitz, Fantasy Life, joins me tonight for a Draftkings Best Ball Draft to talk early training camp talk. This Fantasy Sanctuary, your home of best ball in Europe. We're going to get into it right now. Ian, like it or not, training camp's here, hype season, full effect. Nick Chubb, his ADP is up 18 spots in a week because he can squat like an absolute monster. Brandon Ayuk's it's dropping. Other players are fluctuating massively already. So let's kick things off by what are you most excited to overreact to in the coming days?
Oh man, most excited overreaction. I did see Drew Lock threw a touchdown pass today, so that was good. Brian Dable also said Daniel Jones is taking every single first team rep. So you tell me what piece of information is a little bit more meaningful. But no, man, I'll just say it is good to have, even if it is only training camp. People, I saw someone freaking out over a Jalen Polk 3-yard hitch route. It's good to see actual football plays back on the timeline circulating. I mean, the Mahomes bomb to Worthy the other day. Like, yes, I know it's practice, but guess what? There's no game still. I appreciate it. So just good to see football being played again.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I think, there's always somebody ready to be miserable about one play, but then equally incredibly happy about another play. And it's so good to have stuff to react to. And the ADP fluctuations are going to be a lot of fun. How deep into best ball have you managed to be this year? I know you've been absolutely killing it over at Fantasy Life, churning out content, small matter of getting married and try to fit all that in as well.
Yeah, it's been a busy 2024 for your boy, but nah, man, I've been getting after it this year. Let's see. Over at Underdog, I got 180 done. Draftkings probably, another probably getting us over 200 at a minimum there. So yeah, man, my new thing I've just been loving is just getting on the treadmill at the gym, incline walk, and just ripping some freaking drafts through that. So gets a little tough when the sweat starts pouring on the screen, but I persevere and still figure it out with that. So really has become a part of the exercise routine. And yeah, have learned that trying to squeeze in drafts while the wife is taking a shower or whatever is a bit risky, because then, they want you to pay attention to what they're saying and do all this nonsense later. So certainly got to time it out right. But hey, man, that's one of the things I appreciate with the Underdog trying the new clocks. 15 seconds. Okay, little fat. They went 10 seconds, right? Like the 10-second one was crazy. I think they hit the sweet spot though to 20. I'm genuinely enjoying that.
Yeah, I mean, over here in the UK, we're still locked out of Underdog until they'll, it's been a rough couple of 100 years for us over here in the UK, but one day maybe. But yeah, the 10-second clocks look a lot of fun. What I think, like for me, as a parent, there was definitely points when the kids were little where I could squeeze in 40-minute drafts while they'll sleep. But now 6 and 8 years old, there's no time for drafting whilst the kids are awake. Got to take them a soft play and just let them run free. And then you can really be a great parent and get to the best ball. Shout out to the chat. We've got Ben in here tonight saying it looks like this is going to be a good one. And also Michael, who I know is a big fan of you guys. Your DFS show with Dwayne and Andrew Erickson back in 2020 was one of my first exposure to NFL DFS DraftKings play. It sent me on the road to drafting hundreds of best ball teams every summer. So yeah, definitely got some of our regular D-gens in here.
All right.
In terms of, you're a couple of hundred drafts deep. What's your biggest conviction in terms of like best ball strategy for this year, Ian?
I do think people go especially on Underdog. I mean, the wide receiver early round thing is just, I think it's a little overboard, man. Not saying you shouldn't get some early, but I see lineups, regularly going through drafts where it's like literally 6 wide receivers in the first 6 rounds. And there are opportunities, man, to get 3 baller wide receivers inside the first 24 picks and then actually still get yourself, a Josh Allen, or actually find your way to a Trey McBride, and then also get a, hero running back or two because they're being pushed down. So, I do think that while zero RB has its place, and, I never enter any single draft just like I'm doing this strategy no matter what, and you can always adjust as things go on. I do think potentially starting off with even 2 RBs in your first 3 picks, man, might have some legs to it. So shout out his name on Underdog and Twitter is Jewish McCaffrey, which is a hell of a one, but smart guy, and I enjoy what he has to say about a lot of things. And I agree with the sentiment that when you can go CMC in round 1 and then get Achane, coming back at that 2-3 turn, return, man, that's a freaking deadly lineup. And I do think, going that hard with, a single position, like if you go that hard with a running back, quarterback, or tight end, it just buys you the luxury of not having to add on as many players as you normally would. So similar sentiment again, elite QB, elite tight end, really just the opportunity cost of them being able to only use 2 slots on it, I think helps make up for the wide receiver thing, especially when you're going after guys like, you can be smart about it. Josh Allen, Anthony Richardson. Yes, they're early round QBs. And guess what? All their wide receivers, other than Michael Pittman and Dalton Kincaid as the tight end, tend to go pretty late as well. So, again, not completely out on 0 RB, but I do think there's a lot to be said about maybe, just maybe, man, some of those superhero RB starts.
Does that change much when you're playing over on DraftKings? I know you dabble in both.
A little bit. It's definitely more extreme on underdog, but similar sentiment for sure, just in terms of not being afraid to attack the other positions early. I mean, it's crazy, man, being able to beat through 6, 7 rounds, having your 2 or 3 really good receivers, and also just potentially setting up for some skyrockets at the other spots. So similar strategy overall, I'd say.
Yeah, it's definitely something that worries me is being too heavy on 0 RB at times. Like, it's so easy to fall into 0 RB builds in a way that in previous years would feel uncomfortable. But now, over the last few weeks, I've definitely been trying to do more. Like, I'm a glutton for punishment, and even though DraftKings don't release all their data, I like to scroll back through what the finalist teams from each year looked like. And last week I had Mike Leone on, and we were talking about what it was that the winners had in common from the previous 3 years. And Mike pointed out, well, all 3 of them had at least one running back in the first 2 or 3 rounds. And
there we go.
I think, maybe there's something on DraftKings where the builds still are a bit different. The casual audience is still there. So we are going to be picking from the 10 spot tonight in the DraftKings Millie Maker. Bunch of names I recognize in here, including Michael and Ben, who are both in the chat. Right. ADS 827 at the 1 spot. A lot of our regulars.
Let's collude, baby. No, I'm just kidding.
But if you haven't hit the subscribe button down below, do so. Lots more DraftKings drafts every Wednesday. Next week, I don't know, man. I had a guest drop out on me, so I think it might be that time of year to try the 5 drafts on stream at once, all of again. Last year, had a good time doing that. Yeah, how often do you multi-table, Ian?
Really only once, man. Not very often at all, I should say. I mean, I've just mostly been doing it off my phone more times than not. I was on Davis Matek stream yesterday, and freaking, he says he does 5 fast drafts at the same time while he's on the treadmill. So that is some true degen shit. I respect it, but yeah, man, I don't know. Like, I'm pretty content just doing 1 draft at a time for now, I would say.
Yeah, I like if it gets towards the end of the evening and I'm like, oh man, I can squeeze in 2 or 3 here. I'm a little behind volume where I'd like to be. Then sometimes queue up all 3 monitors and just really see what you can get to. But more than 3.
Yeah, I guess I don't get the FOMO with a lot of this, man. I don't feel the need to max enter these contests as soon as they come out. I'll get in when I get in, and would love to win a life-changing amount of money one of these days. But otherwise, just keep trying to get my puppy to my actual live puppy, not the puppy, not to be confused with the puppy best ball contest. Just trying to get her to figure out not to freaking keep shitting all over my house, and then trying to get to the gym every day. So certainly love my drafts, but yeah, man, it's okay to sit back and smell the flowers. Not that drafting isn't smelling the flowers.
I think, like, with the current best ball landscape, it's so easy to get a good number of volume in different contests, but it's just easier than it was in previous years. We've also got Brent in at the 3 pick, who went with Tyreek Hill.
We got Brett Favre at the number 2 spot. I mean, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I thought he'd be pretty much out of money after all those fines by now. We're 2 picks away, Ian. We've got Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, AJ Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Drake London at the top of ADP. Depending what falls to us, with 1 more pick to go. Anything particularly that you are hammering in this position?
I mean, if I say it, that's just how it works, where it's going to be picks. So I don't know if I'm just playing. I would probably go Garrett or AJB here. Not that. Yeah, there we go. I don't even need to get into why I wasn't going to pick Breece Hall. Oh, it's just Garrett available. So I mean, actually, let's go with AJB over Garrett.
No, I like that. I think it's definitely a nice move. I think it was Dwayne, when he came on the show, was talking about how much he's high on the Eagles for motion under Kellen Moore, and we were chatting about who's more likely to be the motion play. Is it going to be Devonta Smith or is it going to be AJ Brown? And the idea of AJ Brown getting ahead of steam and running at you is a truly frightening idea. So I'm definitely down for more AJ Brown. Somehow I'm lagging behind in this contest on exposure with him.
Eagles pre-snap shift motion was like 6% lower than any other team last year. And Kellen Moore and the Chargers, I believe, were fifth. So smart point by Dwayne, as always. But yeah, man, AJB. I've got a good amount of Devonta Smith as well. I mean, we've seen the offense now for a few years. Like AJB is the 1A there. It hasn't exactly been split. Yeah. So, okay.
So Saquon, Jonathan Taylor, Drake London, Devontae Adams, Devin Achane, Derrick Henry, Karen Williams.
I'd be cool with London or Achane. I feel like London is a little bit of a teardrop after him, so I would lean there.
Yeah, I'm good with Drake London. I think like these running backs are nice, and I draft most of them for the most part. But like Drake London just feels like a dog. Like, how aggressive are you being on Drake London? He's been probably one of my bigger stands that I've taken this year for an early round player, but I definitely am aware it could go miserable, but it just feels like everything's setting up for him to really have his best season by far so far.
I've got a decent amount of them. It's funny. I did, less drafts before, back in freaking February and March, but I do a couple, from time to time. And then Drake London was going like round 4, round 5. So he was my most drafted wide receiver for a while when that was going on. But now I just kind of mix him in with that range. So I'm with you on Taylor and Saquon. I have gotten to the point though, because after London and, we have our feelings. I think Nico is probably the next best bet there. We can talk about Waddle and the things he brings to the table. But I feel like after London, that whole kind of wide receiver 2 tier is pretty flat. So I'm more willing to go ahead and take someone like Saquon, like JT, who, yes, guys, I publish a lot of stuff too on the, problems that a dual threat quarterback brings to the table. They scramble instead of checking down, and they factor into that run game, near the goal line. But at the same time, this is a fairly unique situation where these are two guys who should, with good health, breeze past 300 touches. And when you do start going, by team, the Ravens, Lamar Jackson teams over the years, the Justin Fields Bears, like just, even the Tyrod Taylor Bills, where, to be fair, Shady McCoy had a couple good years when he was featured. I do wonder if it's almost just not the biggest sample size, and we just haven't there's only so many workhorse running backs in the NFL anyway, so it feels weird to be completely out on these guys when, if we look up in, week 17 and Saquon and or JT are 1,800 plus total yards with double-digit touchdowns, it's not going to be the most surprising thing in the world. And then when you're back in round 3, again, I still think you have that good chance to get your wide receiver. So I drafted some Derrick Henry as well, not really completely out on anyone at this range. But yeah, man, you know how it goes. I'm quote unquote fading Puka Nacua because he's my wide receiver 10 and he usually goes off the board like wide receiver 7. So don't hate the player, hate the ADP. And, I think, again, these running backs in round 2 with that big of upside, I'm not going to pass on them all the time.
So are you being more aggressive on Cup because you're fading Puka Nacua, or is it just generally not feeling great about either of them at cost?
I'll take some Cup. It's just...
yeah,
it's more Puka, man. I just don't believe he's just like top 10 real life talent at all. And I know we're playing fantasy football, but I mentioned it before with AJ Brown and like having the period of time where we've seen him work ahead of Devonta. Same exact thing with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle in Miami. Like Tyreek is the 1, Waddle is the 2 in that offense. We saw 12 games of Puka and Cooper Kupp together, and they, had 199 targets. And I know Puka was really freaking good on those targets. He's a really good football player. I'm not trying to take that away from him, but that was 1 year, just kind of a smaller sample size. I just, call me crazy, man. I just think a mid-round pick on the guy is a little bit steep. I'd like to get him more in round 2. So again, could always be wrong. Would be the first time ever I've been wrong in fantasy football, Tom. Crazy overdue. Yeah. But okay, here we go.
So we got Laporta, Etienne, Pacheco, Josh Allen, Michael Pittman, Zay Flowers, Tank Dell.
I would like to think Hurts could fall to us.
Yeah,
maybe that's
always good down push that.
Yeah, Josh Allen's over there. I'll be down for Etienne or Pacheco. Your call.
Well, let's go Etienne because I don't draft Etienne too much, and I've got a bit of a bias against him, so I'm always looking for opportunities to be like he's just a half-season warrior, isn't he? Like we've had 2 seasons in a row where he kind of really faded across the second half of the year, and then last year he had the big Week 17 game, which kind of glossed over it a little bit. But I think like I'm too entrenched in that. I'm too entrenched in the amount of times where Doug Peterson said stuff unprompted about how much they need to get somebody else to take some of the workload off him. Jalen Hurts,
yeah.
So it's like I don't dislike Etienne. I think there's definitely situations where he can be better this year. I mean, so much of the problem last year for the Jags in general was the offensive line was an issue, wasn't it? Like the center was piss poor. Cam Robinson at left tackle missed 8 games. Their rookie round 1 player was playing at right tackle for the first time after being a left tackle in college. And like, I mean, we saw it all across the Jags. Like Trevor Lawrence was 17th in completion rate when kept clean among QBs with 200 attempts or more, but 28th when pressured. Like he just went to pieces a bit. So if the offensive line can be better, which I'm kind of betting on for the Jags passing game, and I'm taking plenty of Jags, then I guess at some point I kind of need to get on board with Etienne. Do you think there's any path to Tank Bigsby doing anything meaningful this year?
No, he's maybe the worst running back in the league, or at least looked like it, last year, which is a shame because I drafted way too freaking much of him, way earlier than he was going right now. I mean, the dude had 4 targets. He dropped 3 of them, and 2 of those drops turned to interceptions. I mean, just horrific stuff. Average 2.6 yards per carry on the season. So I agree 100% though with the offensive line sentiment. I mean, PFF's 27th ranked reigning group, but only returning, 2 of 5 starters. They've added, Bills center Mitch Morse. Cam Robinson hopefully won't be as injured this year. So I do think there's, reason to believe they could take a step forward and just be something closer to average. And I think that single-handedly could help Travis Etienne get back to looking like the guy efficiency-wise that we saw more so in 2022. Because if you look at it, he went from 5.1 yards per carry to 3.8 yards per carry, but the drop-off in the yards before contact was 1.2, man. So I tend to think of that stat as far more of an offensive line stat. And it's literally, man, like shout out Mike Renner, one of the best college football draft guys, in the game. Like he pointed this out for Etienne when he was at Clemson, because his yards per carry fell off during his last year at Clemson. And it was almost entirely, again, more so the rushing yards before contact, which again, I think is to the offensive line. So again, I thought Etienne in round 3 or round 4 last year was not going to work out so well because I was worried about a day 2 rookie and Tank Bigsby taking it. We got evidence that Bigsby is horrible and that he's not going to be someone that they're going to consistently put out there. And what did Jaguars do the entire offseason? Not add another running back. So I feel like it's almost a second chance to right those wrongs that, again, I missed out on ETM with last year. Jaguars offense, I do think is going to, potentially be this above average group. I mean, I know we always talk about the Eagles as being the team that really fell apart last year, but I believe this Jaguars squad was 8-3, before the wheels really, started falling off. So I'm certainly more so on team Trevor Lawrence is actually good. And if he's going to finally reach that tantalizing generational potential we keep hearing about, man, it would make sense that their workhorse RB does some pretty good stuff as well.
Yeah, definitely. Ben asking in the chat, appreciate it's still only July, but do you think there could be significant overlay on the DK Millie? It looks to be a fair bit of pace to fill. There will be overlay on the DK Millie this year. Like before best ball week, they were at 25% full. At this point last year, they were 33% full, and there was 12% overlay last year. We're back up with Rashad White falling 6 spots, CJ Stroud, Alvin Kamara, Anthony Richardson, Kyle Pitts, Calvin Ridley, Chris Godwin, Kenneth
Show me wide receiver.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I would say Ridley or Jaden Reed would be my 2 preferred.
So let's go. Calvin Ridley gives us a bit of week 17 correlation with the Jags, which is always tasty. How are you playing the Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins? Are you drafting both? More Ridley, more Hopkins?
More Ridley. 92 million reasons to think that, again, they're going to give him a lot of chances. And look, I saw plenty of the touchdown drops last year, but the guy still did go for 1,008 tutties in his first bit of action in quite a long time. So okay, is Pitts still there, or did he just go?
Pitts is still there. We could take him.
Let's get an elite tight end, man. Well, my God, you're drafting Kyle Pitts again. What has changed? I don't know. He got a huge quarterback upgrade. He's healthier, and his direct competition now plays in Miami. So it seems like maybe those three factors could have a little something to do with it. But no, I think Ridley in this spot, like I wouldn't surprise me if Will Levis, who's a DGAF quarterback in an offense that every single kind of offseason move they've made and everything from Brian Callahan seems to point they're going to be throwing the football more. I mean, it would not surprise me if Ridley's just, racking up 150 targets. And when you got that much potential volume on the table, him and Deontay Johnson kind of going in this range, I just feel like, we tend to hold drops arbitrarily against guys like Puka Nacua led the NFL in drops by 4 more than anyone else last year. No one cares. We just kind of only use that for Deontay Johnson and Calvin Ridley seemingly. So luckily we don't lose fantasy points for drops, and these guys are open enough to continue to get opportunities regardless. So Ridley, again, as you mentioned, we have the week 17 stuff going on with Jacksonville. Will Levis, I think, is a nice upside, QB2 or QB3 for us. We're only going to do 2 with Jalen Hurts, but yeah, man, I'm not just completely out on the guys. So didn't quite again get all the catches we wanted last year, but I still think there's a good wide receiver in there somewhere.
Yeah, I've kind of ended up drafting a lot more DeAndre Hopkins just because it felt like the price difference between them is I felt like Hopkins should be closer to Ridley because
I agree with that.
Yeah, and when you look back and Hopkins outproduced Ridley in yards per route ran, yards per reception, receiving EPA, yards per game, and points per touch last year, it's just kind of been an easy click for me on Hopkins. But it's getting to the point where I definitely don't want to go into the season with a complete Calvin Ridley fade. And when you can do things like this, adding a correlation between two guys, I don't draft a huge amount in Travis Etienne and Calvin Ridley. I like playing it that way. Since we picked Anthony Richardson goes off the board at the 607 to Ben. I know you're high on Anthony Richardson. What was the promise you made for people, Ian?
Oh yeah, Richardson's my second most drafted quarterback. Which again, like the fact he's up there, and you got to use that, round 5 and here round 6 pick on him tells you that I'm going out of my way for him. But if Richardson plays 17 games and is not post, I believe it was top 12, it might be top 10 numbers, fantasy points per game. I need to ride my bike from my lovely home in Columbus, Ohio, all the way to Lucas Oil Stadium, which is going to take quite some time, but not insurmountable. I'd have to buy a bike because I have not ridden one in quite some time. So a little bit, being cocky there, but yeah, man, we'll see what happens. Good bet for the people to go off with. But final point real quick, Ridley Hopkins. I don't disagree with your sentiment that the ADP is too wide. I will say, like, for example, last year with ETN, a big reason why I didn't draft more of him was because I looked at him in round 3 or 4 and I was like, why is he going a round or 2 ahead of Kenneth Walker, who I thought was going to have a very similar role? And I don't think that was necessarily wrong to really think Walker was a value, but just because someone might be a better value later doesn't mean the guy in question is necessarily mispriced. They might be properly priced. And again, like when we have someone like Ridley with that level of upside to their game, which I believe is, again, 150 plus targets, I'm not going to be completely out on that either. But yeah, Anthony Richardson, please score a lot of touchdowns this year, bro.
So we're one pick away. We've got Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, Travis Etienne, and Calvin Ridley. In terms of running backs, it's Ramondre, DeAndre Swift.
They just took Rome. Damn it.
Yeah. Wide receiver, it's kind of cliff edge time.
How about I'd be down for JSN or Curtis Samuel. Your pick.
Let's go JSN, and then maybe we can look at Curtis Samuel if he comes back around.
Keon's falling too.
Yeah. We've got the Josh Allen drafter on the turn, but yeah, I like Jackson Smith and Jigba there and see what this turn does, because Coleman does go to the Josh Allen stack, but maybe they won't go Curtis Samuel. He's already got Kincaid and Coleman.
We're good though. We got our 4 now. I mean, that just would have been bad if, because I agree, we are about at that cliff. So if JSN and Curtis and Keon have been gone, that would have been trouble for your boys. So we'll see here. If not, I'd be fine going RB2 at this point because we got our 4.
Yep. So let's see. I mean, Curtis Samuel is still about 13 picks away in ADP, but I have no hesitation dragging him up at this point.
Show me the running backs.
So it is Ramondre, DeAndre Swift, Jake Ferguson went, Mostert, Najee Harris, Zach Moss.
I'm cool with Stevenson or Curtis. I'll leave it up to you. I've been drafting a good amount of Stevenson too.
let's go Mondre, because I just think that
We
what
don't
he
need
can
a wide receiver.
No, I think like in previous years, like last year in the 1,364 finalists that were on DraftKings, there was 60% of them had 5 wide receivers by round 9. So but when I came into DraftKings drafts this year, I was like, I need 5 wide receivers by round 9. This second year in a row, that's been quite strong.
Yeah.
But I just think the wide receiver landscape makes it so difficult to do that it's presenting all these other opportunities with running backs. And I mean, Ramondre Stevenson was a guy we were drafting several rounds earlier last year, and I think it's fair to say that he's in a better situation this year.
Yeah, man. I mean, he just got paid to certainly be that guy as well. I mean, RB 10 freaking fantasy points per game back in 2022, which is why we were drafting them higher. So, yeah, I've drafted a lot of Antonio Gibson late, pure handcuff sort of play. I don't think he's, janking that job anytime soon. But yeah, man, I'm with you. And again, just looking at kind of the running backs that Stevenson's going around in terms of if you had to place a bet on which one's going to, have the best chance to potentially flirt with that, 300 combined carries and targets. I mean, I do think it's Stevenson out of the group. So if he would have been gone, Jalen Warren definitely would have been a next running back I'd be looking to. Been drafting a lot of him, and he accordingly went one pick right after us. So, touche AJP over there. But yeah, man, again, I'm feeling good about the squad. And I think 5 and 9 is a pretty reasonable, outlook. I think it's something that I'm generally doing as well. But I do wonder with some of this stuff, man, like how much is a 1 year sample where
Absolutely.
like 4 and 9 is maybe 1% less of an advance rate. I'm not saying we shouldn't try to maximize those margins, but I am also just not trying to be too attached to one, concrete strategy. So, because I think when you do that, you just end up maybe we're still early enough, as they like to say, where like there's not as many people playing by these same sort of week 17 rules and stuff. But trying to find some differentiation, just not to be as Matthew Friedman once said, contrarianism doesn't give you a license to be a fucking moron. So I get it, can't go all the way in with that, but I do think again, just if you still have a reasonable rational thought, you're not going too crazy, leaping ADP by 20 rounds or whatever. I think there's some looseness you can apply here, maybe more so than some other state.
And I think as long as you're building strategically and you've got thought process behind it, a lot of different things can work out on DraftKings. And it kind of goes to the point of the question. Seeing Team 11 go 2 QBs early, does Ian have thoughts on grabbing 2 QBs before round 9? And that was JM, who's in the chat. Draft 81 for Millie, so been experimenting with different strategies. We've got a couple of picks before us, but yeah, so he went with Josh Allen stacked with Kincaid, Coleman, and then CJ Stroud with Nico Collins through the first 9. I like it. I mean, Stroud's been falling, so you're building a team different to what a lot of early teams have. Is that anything that you'd try, Ian, or are you kind of sticking to one QB through the first 7?
I think that's a great example of when to do it. I'm not sure how far Stroud went past ADP, but okay, hold on. Let's do this pick.
So Palmer, Cortland Sutton, Tajay Spears, Dallas Goedert, Jared Goff. We could take
Goddard, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're done at tight end. Nice.
Yep.
Cool. Let's just get through these and then we'll go back to two.
Yeah. So running back, we've got Tajay Spears, Nick Chubb, who
what the hell?
He was
not right here.
Yeah. Brian Robinson, who is my second highest rostered player.
Nice.
Give us some week 16 and 17 correlation. Javonte Williams, who apparently looked excellent today. Trey Benson, Blake Corum, Zeke for week 17 correlation if he makes it. At wide receiver, Palmer, Cortland Sutton, Tyler Lockett, Brandon Cooks, Rashid Shaheed.
Cooks gives us the bring back, and we could probably there goes. I was gonna say I'd be cool with Brian Robinson Jr. Because we got Stevenson last round. I think it'd be nice to go Cooks or Shaheed here, potentially. Like, was there another running back you were really loving?
No, I mean, I don't mind these guys, but I think when it comes back to us in the sort of ADP range of 130 to 145, there's still plenty. So I'm good with Cooks if you are.
I think he's our last pretty good bring back for the Eagles stack. So good stuff there. Okay, 2 QBs through round 9. I think the way that Team 11 did it makes sense. Where again you get in the slider and you have the stacks. But if you look at Michael Heary all due respect if you're listening to us right now. But was able to get worthy with Patrick Mahomes, which is good. But man, not having the Kelsey there or Hollywood, like, okay, it worked out. Now with Kyler, I mean, you're probably going to be stacking with Michael Wilson or Greg Dortch. You got Trey Benson, but unless Kyler was free falling, and again, it's tough to see exactly how far past they were with ADP. That's one where I just don't quite get it as much. So if you got the stacks going and you can make it work past ADP, okay, but not something I'm generally going out of my way to do, because it is a new lineup. At the same time, I feel like, in kind of what we talked about earlier, when you take that early round QB, the luxury you're getting yourself is you don't need to worry about the position until later, and then even then you only need one more. So I think that's just an area where if you're not careful with it, it could really put you behind the 8 ball, at another spot.
Yeah, definitely. Michael does all the data visualization for Mike Leone over at Established to Run. So maybe Leone's red pilled him into scooping value above all else. He is in the chat saying Kyler was around late and just like the idea of him, Dortch with Puka over Stafford late. It makes sense if you're looking at that week 17 correlation with Puka. I can get it.
Hey, I mean, Greg Dortch, like Kyler said, best wide receiver alive if he was 6'3". So don't need to sell me anymore. But yeah, okay. So then he had him around past ADP. I think that makes a lot more sense then.
Yeah, we've got Tyler saying Ramondre with a mobile QB and Gibson could mean less easy checkdowns when May wins the job, but goal line upside if offense is average, still nice. Don't love him, but got to mix him in. I think those are all fair points. And if you want to hear more from Tyler, come back on Mondays when we're streaming underdog drafts every week, and this Friday for a best ball happy hour with Ian's former colleague John Daigle.
Hey,
drafting BBM, maybe having a few beers and cutting loose on a Friday afternoon.
I'm podcasting with Daigle on Friday too. That's a busy man over there. But fair point with Drake May. At the same time, though, I don't think Drake May is going to be Lamar Jackson level of taking off and scrambling. He can scoot. I love that Patriots beat reporter that made the freaking what was the background song he used yesterday? It was a bunch of Drake May highlights, and he did a Freebird in the background. And just amazing, man. Be careful, bro, because Twitter is going to find that song and be very upset. Yeah. Copyright. That's why I only use NFL primetime music, because they seemingly let me get by with that. But no, that's a fair point on Mondre, but I think it's a still reasonable risk.
Yeah, so we're a few picks away. It looks like Kirk Cousins was somebody I might have been willing to take as our second QB, but he went off a couple of picks after our last one to the team out of the 8 spot.
Who Levis squad. We can even go Gino later if we need to.
Yeah, we've got plenty of stuff that we can do. So at wide receiver, it's Mike Williams, Gabe Davis, A.D. Mitchell, Adam Thielen, Jahan Dotson. Tight end, Dalton Schultz, T.J. Hawkinson, Pat Fryermuth. Running back.
We're good on tight end. I'd say
Rico gives week 17. Charbonnet a bit of stacking.
I'm cool with Rico or Sharp. I think both are pretty solid handcuffs.
Well, let's go Rico for the correlation.
Okay. And I haven't gotten Rico, so that's fine.
Yeah, I end up taking a slightly more Charbonnet, just because it feels like that's a situation with the new coaching staff that it could be really, it could be really up for grabs. There's a lot less loyalty, isn't there? I know you wrote about that recently and how Fantasy Life projections are leaning towards more of a split this year than last year.
I think Sharp is great handcuff value, but Rico, I think, has a better chance of we get the right training camp report and he probably booms up a couple rounds almost immediately. Like him and Zeke's ADP could flip flop if we find out, something we don't know right now. I'd be surprised if that happens with Charb. That said, man, I've been drafting a hell of a lot more than Charb. I've only taken Kenneth Walker, a couple times probably total this offseason. So, okay, we got 3 RBs now.
Yeah, so we've got Etienne Stevenson, and then obviously we just took Dowdle. So there's Gus Bus, Lloyd, Chandler, Kendry Miller, who's apparently injured, Chuba Hubbard, and
Gus Bus is good to go, man. I know people have this weird inclination about it. Let's ride the Gus Bus. Why not?
There's a video came out today from Chargers camp of Gus and J.K. Dobbins running through drills, and got to say, I mean, J.K. Dobbins looked okay. Obviously, very minimal what he was doing, but how are you dealing with this backfield? Is it all just Gus Bus for you, or do you end up taking some Vidal?
Mostly Gus bust for me, man. I just think the money and everything we've heard like just screams that it's going to be Edwards' backfield. Like Edwards, 2 years, 6.5 million, 3.3 million guaranteed. Dobbins, 1 year, 1.6, 50K guaranteed. That's it. So again, Daniel Popper, who I believe is one of the best, Chargers beat reporters out there for The Athletic, he's come out and said clearly that Gus Edwards is the RB1. He thinks Dobbins is the RB2, but we'll see what happens with the competition. So it's a shockingly cheap and low depth backfield for a team that we're fully expecting to want to run the ball a lot. And, I don't think Gus is necessarily this, amazing talent, but I don't think Kyron Williams is his top 10 talent either. And we're taking him in round 3. So yes, guys, chill. Kyron Williams is better than Gus Edwards. I get it. But again, like we're buying opportunity, and it just seems like Gus Edwards has a chance to fall into the end zone 10 plus times. Has he ever done that? Oh yeah, he did it last freaking year for the Ravens. So I know the Chargers probably not going to be opening up, rushing lanes quite as wide as what he had next to Lamar. But for me, I mean, especially in this draft, man, like Gus Edwards is, I would not be surprised at all if he has 20 plus carries in week 1 and we're getting him behind dudes like Jerome Ford, Rico Doubt, who we took ahead of him, to be fair. And then Charbonnet, who again, like more pure handcuff plays. So yeah, man, Simon, give me some Gus.
Yeah, like it felt, like, as a Ravens fan, it felt a bit like Gus kind of ran out of steam down the stretch last year. He went from weeks 1 to 11, averaging 4.6 yards per carry, 2 missed tackles forced per game, to then 3.4 yards per carry and 1 missed tackles forced per game. But I think he can just be the absolute volume play there in LA under the LA Ravens, as they were kind of making a case to be called this year. Tyler saying it was Kyle Dvorak who posted that. It was a banger tweet and vid. Last time I tried to put music over anything was the Jets returning.
No, it wasn't Kyle. Kyle took the video of the actual guy, which, I think people can just quote tweet instead of doing it. I like Kyle. It was Brian Hines. Shout out Brian Hines from Pat's Cupid.
Last time I took music on anything was the Jets returning that, or maybe it was the Dolphins returning that Jets touchdown from their own end zone all the way, and put my heart will go on from Titanic over it. And yeah,
that's great.
Twitter weren't happy.
I got the again, like NFL's cool with me posting a lot of all 22 and stuff. Thank you guys for not suspending me or anything. But yeah, the one thing I got in trouble with recently, I was like, getting ready for the fantasy playoffs, and it was like Rocky IV like training montage, and they got pissed about that, and they're like, take it down pretty quickly. Movie scenes and music. Be careful out there, everyone.
So we are 1 pick away, 1, 4, 5, 2. We've got our big Eagles stack, obviously.
Is Levis gone?
Levis is still there at 163. Ooh. So we could push this around, see whether one of Gino or Will Levis makes it back to it. Or Levis does clash with Jalen Hurts, both on a week 5 bye.
Yeah.
I'd be down with Gino.
Yeah, unless there's someone else you like a lot more, that like
wide
receiver wise.
I really like Gino. He's one of my highest rostered QBs. I just think he's undervalued for what he is. We'll touch on that maybe more in a minute. But coming around the corner, running back was Kendre Miller, Antonio Gibson, Tyler Algier.
Did you see the quote on Kendre?
He needs to not get cut. So
Dennis Allen, that's a player who needs to figure out how to stay healthy because you can't make the team in the training room. Yikes. I would say Tyler Algier. And then we're probably done with running back.
Yeah, definitely. So through 14 rounds, we have AJ Brown, Drake London, Travis Etienne, Jalen Hurts, Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Ramondre, Dallas Goedert, Brandon Cooks, Rico Dowdle, Gus Edwards, Geno Smith, and Tyler Algier. It smacks. It's good. It's a fun team.
Yeah, man. I shouldn't say completely that we're done. Underdog, I'd be done, but Draftkings, we got to 20 rounds, dude. It's so funny, like when just those extra 2 rounds, it really shows you how bare, some of the fantasy options can get out there. Anyone that did like Scott Fishbowl knows that feeling as well when you start getting really late into it. But no, man, I'm jacked to get Algier where we did. Again, someone like Charbonnet, where I just think the 3-down handcuff value is really there. I know, people got annoyed that Arthur Smith gave him the ball too much last year, but lost in that storyline is the fact that Algier had a really freaking good rookie year, man. I challenge, hey, guys, pull up the rookie year numbers from Bijan and Algier. I fully agree. Bijan's the better running back, but you're going to be surprised to find how good Algier was, even relative to Bijan freaking Robinson as a rookie himself. So, last year, I believe it was Algier, Derrick Henry, and Tajay Spears. Only 3 running backs that had a PFF grade north of 70 in rushing, receiving, and pass blocking. There's nobody. Could you name another running back on the Falcons roster right now? My guy C-Pat's gone, so I'm not even sure at this point, man. So, yeah, Tyler Algier, again, I think he's a tier 2 handcuff.
Yeah, I think he's absolutely up there. Like, the question I kind of put to myself at times is, if they'd never drafted Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier just carried on the path that he was on, what kind of round would he be getting picked in? And I think we know it'd be far, far higher. Like, you'd be talking probably about a dead zone type running back, but I'm all right with that kind of price in round 14, and it gives you leverage against Bijan drafter in your roster.
Exactly. That's the other thing. And also apologies to Jace McClellan and his family.
Well, there's a new one. So yeah, Who even saying, shocker, Bateman hyped in camp again. Are you ready to get hurt by Rashad Bateman again, Ian?
Here's the thing. It's not as extreme of a change in circumstances as like Kyle Pitts when I was talking about before, but this is going to be, I think, his first offseason where he's just not actively dealing with an injury, man. So, last year he was coming back from the Liz Frank injury. Obviously, his rookie year, he's having the groin strain, all throughout August and into the year. So I do think when I remember later in last season, this kind of watching all 22, not even focusing on, anyone in particular, but it was Bateman. And then honestly, even Elijah Moore, like the second half of the year, I saw those guys separating more often, running with some of those routes. We were like, hold on, who is that out there doing it? And, yeah, man. So never really got the targets, but Baltimore is interesting, man. Like, I didn't think Odell Beckham Jr. was bad last year at all. I thought he made the most out of his opportunities, but they just didn't really come. I mean, they're going to kind of run. I mean, you said you're a Ravens fan, so you can probably speak on it better than me, but there was a Ravens Twitter account out there that kind of put a video into what I'm talking about where Bateman wasn't getting the targets, but he was out there creating separation. So he's, as long as we're still getting him after 70 wide receivers are already off the board, man, I'm okay with that risk.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it was Jonas Schaefer, one of the Baltimore beat reporters, who put that out.
It was really well done.
We're one pick away.
Yeah, I don't know if he's still my most drafted wide receiver, but Demarcus Robinson would be cool.
Big time. Love that. I mean, the stretch he went on from, what was it, week 13 last year, where he was playing like over 95% of the snaps, averaged like 16 PPR points down the stretch.
Dude, he had like 5 straight top 25 finishes to end the year. And that was with, Kupp and Puka obviously out there doing their thing.
Seems good.
Yeah, I don't expect him to be this, third banana just throughout the 1A, 1B, 1C with DeMarcus Robinson. I realize he's 30 and never had a season over 500 or 600 yards or whatever it is. He's almost like the anti Terry McLaurin or DJ Moore. He's gotten to play with Mahomes and then Lamar and now Stafford out there. So certainly getting some help. But yeah, man, look, it's an offense that runs more 11 personnel than any other team out there. I mean, I think if you go through the roster and you're like, all right, who's going to be the third target earner on the Rams, especially with Higbee, on the PUP list now, the picture. Kyron, I know he was a good pass catcher at Notre Dame. He certainly wasn't being used much last year. Dead last among running backs in yards per route run, which still surprises me. Man, I think if DeMarcus Robinson was a boom or bust wide receiver 4, I think that's fine for where we're getting him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're talking about our 6th wide receiver off the board. Yeah. When it comes back to us in 2 picks, we're kind of looking at rookie territory or veteran territory, like severe veteran territory with Roman Wilson, who may or may not be the Steelers wide receiver 2, 3, 4. Troy Franklin, Malachi Corley, DJ Chark, who's been getting a little bit of pop. He's up 4 spots this week. Marvin Mims. Anybody take your fancy down kind of
I'd be cool with Mims or McMillan. Yeah, McMillan just round 3. He's getting a little bit of hype. I don't think Trey Palmer is really going to be much of a guy. Marvin Mims, though, I mean,
let's see Mims and see if McMillan comes back to us. Yeah, I think he's still another 20,
we have a chance.
spots away. And of course,
yeah, man. I mean, Mims certainly flashed early on. Sean Payton's even come out and said like he almost wishes he got him more opportunities. It was just he, almost said straight up like Judy's gone now. Marvin Mims is stepping in. So I think Bo Nix could not completely suck. Like going out there on a limb there. I mean, the dude was picked 12th overall for a reason. I don't know, have more touchdowns than any Power 5 quarterback over the last 2 years. I know he's 24, and you look at the list of quarterbacks coming out that are 24. You see Joe Burrow and then a bunch of other busts there. So, I understand the history of it, but quarterbacks are staying in college a lot longer. They're transferring. And I feel like Nix's Auburn days are held against them a hell of a lot more than, Penix at Indiana and then even Jaden Daniels at ASU. So, yeah, man, we'll see what happens with the Broncos offense. But Cortland Sutton should be the one. But if Marvin Mims is number 2 target getter in Denver, I don't think anyone would be shocked.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in them at price. I think it's like, we've seen the upside from Mims, but if I'm not getting a kind of certain player at this point in the draft, I just want somebody who can affect things quickly, who can force the other team into making plays quicker because of them being able to break off a massive play. And much as there's players in this range who I like, I think Mims is one of those players who can. Like Juwan Jennings was almost Super Bowl MVP,
yeah. Let's go.
And you talk about guys like Roman Wilson and Malachi Corley could be good at earning targets potentially. But yeah, guys like Marvin Mims, if you can break a game open on one play, I think that's kind of what we're looking for in best ball at some points. So yeah, Kendre Miller, the slide eventually did stop at 16.12, which
it's amazing how that one piece comes out today and everyone in here is sharp enough to get that going. So kudos everyone.
Yeah, definitely a sharp room that we're in. I would like to think lots of friends and family. ADS 82.7 out of the one spot in a lot of our drafts. And if you can't get enough of our content, hit the join button down below. You get all my best ball rankings, best ball resources, 40% off all Spike Week products, including the Draft Week overlay, the Draft IQ overlay I'm using. And of course, Rich's Dynasty rankings, his 200-page rookie guide, rookie model, trade calculator, everything you need. So let's see, we're in 16 rounds deep, and we have AJ Brown, Drake London, Travis Etienne, Jalen Hurts, Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, JSN, Ramondre Goddard, Brandon Cooks, Rico Dowdle, Gus Bus, Gino, Tyler Algier, Demarcus Robinson, and Marvin Mims. So we're sitting on a 2-5-7-2. I don't think there's much left at quarterback now, so it might be one where we just say, okay, we're just going to roll with what we've got. Of course, we could add Bo Nix here. He's right around ADP.
That's the only one, but we definitely don't need to. Like, I don't know.
We can push him.
I think a running back, we're probably good unless there's someone. Honestly, I know I talked a lot of shit about him. Oh, we already have ETN, so I don't want Tank on this squad.
Yeah.
Look, wide receiver. I mean, let's get Greg Dortch. I'm sorry, Michael, but dude's a baller.
I mean, if you left Greg Dortch to this point in the draft, you kind of brought it on yourself. Plus, we've got week 15 correlation against the Patriots and week 17 correlation against the Rams. Definitely fine with that.
Greg Dortch, come on down.
Are you drafting a lot of Dortch?
Yeah, way too much. I get to round 18, like if there's not a immediate correlation player, if it's like some ridiculous reach I'm gonna have to do, I just like taking Dortch at that spot. I've been taking Rondale Moore too, man. I think both those guys are gonna be starting in the slot. Like I know Desmond Ridder sucks, but look at what backups make in the NFL, like, the Tyrods, and like it's a good $5 to $8 million job a lot. And he got, Kyler Murray coming off the injury. I think the Rondale for Ridder trade is actually maybe a little more draft, like sort of kind of capital given for Rondale. He's going to start on the slot. I don't think it's going to be Kadero Hodge. And if you do look at the Zach Robinson offense, like what we say earlier about Sean McVay and 11 personnel, man. So like Rondale, I know he's not exactly lived up to expectation. That's putting it mildly, but man, just at this point, if we can get a starting slot receiver and a passing game, we wouldn't be surprised if they put up some legit numbers. I know we already got London, but at this point, man, I'd be down. Malik Washington is cool too. I think he's up.
Yeah.
He already got picked. Oh no,
no, he's good.
We're just
a little bit of the way. Yeah, I mean, for me, the Rondale thing, it's like we see player for player trades so rarely in the NFL that I feel like it is kind of worth paying attention to the fact that that's what the Falcons wanted. So
was there an extra? If there's an extra draft pick in there, I might have just put my foot in my mouth. But
I don't think there was. I think it was pretty much purely a player for player scenario.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Amen. There we go. I agree with everything I just said then. Let's see.
So it's round 18. We're going to have 2 more picks after this. We could take Malik Washington or push him. Running back, we got 19 seconds. Pierce, Edwards-Helaire, Tank Bigsby.
Madison, just kind of off as Zamir. Let's give Madison. We can do one.
Yeah, I'm down with Madison. I think, and I've got 14%, which possibly is a little too much, but I just think that when you get down to this range of a draft, and again, it's that kind of balance of going, okay, Zamir White is going, where did he go in this draft? In the 7th round, and then we're getting Madison 11 rounds later. Ian, I know that Zamir White's one of those players you've got a bit of fade on. Are you at all worried about the fact that he rides horses and looks like 3 times the size of a normal human being?
Just jiggity jacked. I mean, it doesn't hurt, man, but God, just even the stuff last year. I mean, just if you guys really think the Raiders are going to be able to play with these leads again and, move over Devontae, move over Brock Bowers, or running the offense through Zamir White. If they love Zamir White so much, why did this dude have like 15 career touches before Josh Jacobs got hurt, going into freaking like week 15 of year 2, man? I just feel like I've been burned a lot by guys like Cam Akers. And, you see these, and I'm not even talking about the Achilles, but like you see these guys have really nice 4 or 5 week stretches at the end of the year on bad teams that are just kind of, oh, okay, yeah, we'll give you this workload. Never had the draft capital. And I just think with Zamir White, like we're not expecting him to catch passes. So he needs to be this ultra efficient early down guy, which he wasn't last year. Okay. He wasn't terrible, but he was not this very efficient guy. What he averaged 4.1 yards per carry or whatever. And I don't think there's going to be many scoring opportunities. And I've gotten pushback from that by Raiders fans. I'm sorry, guys. Your quarterback is going to be Gardner Minshew or Aiden O'Connell. Completion percentage over expected says they were the 2 worst in the NFL last year. So I know Minshew, was able to lead the Colts. And, I'm not saying he's completely horrendous, but relative to a lot of guys out there, man, give me the other guys. So Madison, I mean, I know he didn't get a ton of money to go in there, but I mean, I'm looking at the depth chart right now. Abdullah is going to be the, strictly pass down back. He's almost like a Chase Edmonds where he doesn't even factor into the handcuff equation. Dylan Lobb, shout out to New Hampshire fighting whatever the hell their mascot is. Like, I don't know what's going on there. So Madison, man, would not be the most shocking thing if we see him have some level of not standalone value, but just kind of more of like a 1B than we're expecting. And if Zamir does go down, I think Madison's the next guy up to probably get the same freaking role that people were drafting Zamir for.
Yeah, I mean, you look back at what Zamir did, and he had 95 rushing yards per game over those 3 weeks, 19.7 rush attempts per game, finished as the RB 12, 16, and 16. I feel like it's almost difficult not to score touchdowns when you're averaging 95 rushing yards and 19 touches per game. So yeah, he's probably going to score more than his 1.7% touchdown rate that he had last year, but I don't know if it's.
I challenge someone out there. Find me 3 plays that Zamir White looked overly impressive on last year. I found 2 against the Chiefs after watching all of his carries. I wanted to be proven wrong, man. I make my little highlight films on Twitter. I thought I could at least get to because if I can't make it a minute, man, I'm sorry, you don't get a highlight film. And Zamir White, man, it was bad. It was rough out there. So do we go Knicks here?
So the 2 teams after us both have 3 quarterbacks.
Ooh, we've got looking out.
So we've got a 3-5-7-3 and then a 3-4-10-1. So should we take Malik Washington, and then if Knicks comes around the corner around 20?
Yeah, let's do it.
Makes sense. How high are you on Malik Washington?
He's just someone where I feel like when I was researching other wide receivers, I kept seeing his name pop up, in a good way at some of the charts I was, getting after. So could very well be the wide receiver 4 in Miami. And I don't know if he overtakes OBJ by the end of the season, mostly at incentive-laden contracts, already starting off on the PUP list. We didn't even really know he was injured. So it doesn't sound overly serious or anything, but I do think, Malik could make a little bit of noise. Shout out Coach Speak Index, fantastic Twitter account. If you guys aren't already following them, you should. But they were someone that was really on Puka Nacua, did a great job with that and got him. And I've thrown a little bit of shade around because it's like, oh yeah, just listen to all the hype. You would have gotten Puka Nakua, you could have gotten Justin Ross, you could have gotten Elijah Moore. Like, okay, Puka, the stuff worked, but go back one more year and what was all the Rams beats saying about Allen Robinson? You guys are old enough to remember that one. So again, worked out for Puka. Credit where credit's due. But I saw someone asking a coach speak, like just based on what you've heard and think, who do you think could be this year's Puka for you? And he's, saying Malik Washington. So dude is obviously, ear to the, not ground, but just every freaking press conference out there, which I appreciate. So great follow. And accordingly, I've gotten a little bit of a Malik Washington. So nothing crazy, but when all else fails, Bo, let's go.
Bo Nix. Yeah.
We had overall pick in the 20th round, man. He's going to start 17 games. Like, come on, just removing everything, that's not bad.
25 spots past ADP. We had Coach Speak Index on the channel last week, did a whole bunch of pre-training camp videos with him, which are now on the channel.
Karaoke?
We did not do karaoke. I mean, if he told me that he was about to start doing karaoke, then I probably would have let him do karaoke. But yeah, absolute fountain of knowledge and a really great guy. Absolutely must follow for everybody 100%. Who wants to win this year. So through 20 rounds, after we capped off with Bo Nix, drafting out of the 10 spot, 3692, AJ Brown, Drake London, Travis Etienne, Jalen Hurts, Calvin Ridley, Kyle Pitts, JSN, Ramondre, Dallas Goedert, Brandon Cooks, Rico Dowdle, Gus Edwards, Geno Smith, Tyler Algier, Demarcus Robinson, Marvin Mims, Greg Dortch, Alexander Mattison, and Malik Washington. In terms of what we've got going for week 17, we've got 5 players in the Cowboys-Eagles game. We've got Etienne, Calvin Ridley in that game. And then we've got a double running back correlation for what could be a slog with Ramondre and Gus Bus.
Yeah.
And then the 2 wide receiver studs, Demarcus Robinson and Greg Dortch, facing off against each other. How you feeling, Ian?
I think the D-Rob, Greg Dortch week 17 matchup is exactly what we needed to get going. So, no, man, it was fun. I don't think we made, looking back on it, I mean, the one practice I like trying to do after we're done here is like, is there a pick out there that you just, in hindsight, wish we could have gone back for him? I don't think we ever really hamstrung ourselves and like really missed out on a specific position. Like we can talk about will Rico Dowdle really be better? Should we have taken Charbonnet before on that? But I really don't think we made any egregious mistakes out there. So Jalen Hurts can always I don't like to wish injury, so Jalen Hurts could win the lottery and take the rest of the year off and screw us. Footballs aren't even fully around, weird stuff can happen, but just in terms of a roster construction standpoint, got some players I like. I'm pretty pleased, man.
Yeah, definitely. I think maybe I would have pushed to a tight end 3, but there's not a spot where I particularly would have wanted to do it because the running back room's really nicely put together when you consider we've got Etienne, Ramondre, and then you've got guys who have question marks, could outplay their ADP, but could also just be contingent value. So I'm good with that. I like the fact that we added Mattison late rather than adding Colby Parkinson, Jelani Woods, Juwan Johnson, those guys. They're the pull the cord in the kind of emergency situations, and we just didn't need them. So no, I'm good with that. I think that there was a lot of fun. Michael in the chat saying thanks for the draft, guys. Kyler pick did kill me in the end and called out by a fantasy legend. Bad night's work. Well, I mean, if we hadn't taken Greg Dortch, but I mean, Michael, that's also on you. You should have known how high Ian was on him. But yeah, Michael finished with 2.693. Mahomes stacked with Worthy. Kyler stacked with Trey Benson. Yeah, plenty of upside in the running back room, though. I think there's definitely fun to be had there. I
will say, I mean, Kyler is one of few quarterbacks where, he can get there with some rushing touchdowns and stuff. He was just saying yesterday, the lateral movement is back in addition to straight line speed. So, not everyone's sniping Greg Dortch like us late. So
how often would you say this draft is kind of reflective of what you're doing when you're drafting on DraftKings? Is it quite similar to the way that you're building a lot of the time?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we had many, philosophical positional differences in terms of what we were doing. A couple spots where it was like this, wide receiver, or this wide receiver, sure. But no, man, I think it was pretty spot on. If I was in this room without you, just chilling by myself, I think this could absolutely be something I might have ended up putting together. So I hear you on the wide receiver 3 spot. But again, I don't think we're even in that bad of a spot with Ridley and being able to get JSN after. Like, would have been cool to get Rome to fall one more pick. I was really hoping to get that value, but kudos to AJP for getting that done.
Yeah, I mean, Rome's such an easy click, and he already had Keenan Allen, in fairness, so it was an easy Bears stack. Can't hate on him for that one too much. No. But yeah, I mean, we got Kyle Pitts, a bit of an ADP fall. We've got Jalen Hurts, potential QB1 overall, so it's always hard to feel too bad about that. Ian, I know you guys over at Fantasy Life are absolutely hammering out new stuff at the minute. Anything in particular that people should be checking out if they haven't already?
Yeah, guys, new show, the Fantasy Life show. I'm hosting it every morning, 9 a.m., Monday through Friday. So we got Dwayne McFarland, Chris Allen, and this Friday, Mr. Johnny Daigle joining it. So just a good hour going over all the news. This is quarterback week, so we're focusing kind of on a different topic there every day. But yeah, just getting in the swing of it, man, trying to talk ball every day and just hopefully learning a thing or two around the way. So that, and we also got a Fantasy Life Plus, all of our content, articles, podcasts, and everything is free. But really some great tools. Dwayne's utilization report suite, I think, is the best in the business in terms of just getting workload splits out there. And then also just our draft champion, man. Like, I was doing mock drafts on our stream today, and it, honestly, I obviously I knew what it was. My company made it, man, but like, it was surprising myself, like, with some of the stuff it can do. And just, I know in the past I've always been looking for certain mock draft things that you can add keepers and you can do, the customized league settings, and then actually have good AI, ADP going through it throughout the way. And I do think we've managed to master that. So I want to say, like, it goes down as low as like $40 a year. The most expensive package is still less than a Chipotle burrito per month, as I've been trying to tell everyone. So again, not trying to break the bank here. And if that's not your style, it's all good. We still got plenty of, goodness written and audio wise, but hey, trying to take that, extra step out there. I think Fantasy Life Plus might be for you.
Love it. Yeah, I'm a subscriber. Big recommend all the stuff over at Fantasy Life. Love the tools that you guys do. Essential reading, easily one of the websites I visit the most. If you haven't already, do hit the like and subscribe buttons. Let's say back on Friday for an Underdog Best Ball Happy Hour with Tyler and John Daigle. Nice. Next week, we've got guest coming on whose name eludes me at the minute. I can't remember who it is, but I'll be drafting 5 best ball teams at once next Wednesday. We've got redraft content coming, all the stuff with Coach Speak Index, undervalued and overvalued running backs for Hayden Winks last week as well. Never been a better time to be a subscriber. We will be back very soon.